The warning sirens had been screaming for 3 days now. Commander Veltar pressed his 6-fingered hands against his ears, but the sound cut right through his skull. On the main screen of the command center, red dots moved across the star map, like a disease spreading through healthy tissue. Each red dot was a hegemony warship. Each red dot meant another world about to die. "How many ships do we have left?" Veltar asked his aide, though he already knew the answer would be bad. 17, sir. Maybe 20 if we count the damaged ones that can still fire their guns. The young officer's voice shook. The Kelevari were a peaceful people. They had never been good at war. They had never needed to be good at war. Until now. Veltar looked at the map again. The hegemony had started with small raids 6 months ago. Quick attacks on mining stations and cargo ships. The Kelevari government had tried to negotiate. They had offered trade deals and territory. They had even offered to pay tribute if the hegemony would just leave them alone. The hegemony had laughed. Then they had brought more ships. "Sir, we have another message from the hegemony fleet," the communications officer said. Her name was Kira, and she was barely old enough to serve. Most of their experienced officers were already dead. "Put it on screen," Veltar said. The face that appeared was not pleasant to look at. The hegemony were a reptilian species with sharp teeth and cold yellow eyes. This one wore the black uniform of a fleet commander. His scales were dark green with patterns. That meant he had killed many enemies in personal combat. "People of the Kelevari Confederation," the hegemony commander said. His voice was like gravel sliding down a cliff. "This is your final warning. Surrender now and we will allow 10% of your population to live as slaves. Continue to resist, and we will kill every last one of you and take your worlds anyway." The transmission ended. The command center was quiet except for the alarm sirens. "Sir," Kira said quietly. "What do we do?" Veltar stared at the map. 17 ships against. 300. Maybe 400 now. The math was simple and terrible. They could run, but the hegemony ships were faster. They could hide, but the hegemony had sensors that could find them anywhere. They could fight, but they would lose. "Open a channel to all remaining ships," Veltar said. "Channel open, sir. This is Commander Veltar to all Kelevari Defense Force vessels. Fall back to the inner system. Defensive formation around Kelevar Prime. We make our stand here." He closed the channel and turned to Kira. "How long until the hegemony fleet reaches us?" 6 hours, sir. 6 hours. Not long enough to evacuate the homeworld. Not long enough to build more weapons. Not long enough to say goodbye to everyone they loved. "Sir," another officer called out. "I have an idea. It might be crazy, but..." "Right now, crazy sounds good," Veltar said. "What if we send out a distress signal? To everyone. To the whole galaxy." Veltar frowned. The other governments already said no. The Altaran Republic, the Vegan Alliance, the Trade Federation. They all said they could not help us. They are afraid of the hegemony too. "Not to the governments, sir. To everyone. Every ship, every station, every world with a radio. A general distress call on all frequencies." "That is against protocol," another officer said. "We would be bothering billions of people with our problems." "We are about to be extinct," the young officer shot back. "I think we can break protocol." Veltar thought about it. What did they have to lose? In 6 hours they would all be dead anyway. Maybe someone out there would at least remember that the Kelevari had existed. Maybe someone would tell their children the story of a peaceful people who had tried to do the right thing. "Do it," he said. "Send the message on all frequencies. Tell them who we are. Tell them what is happening to us. Tell them we are not asking for soldiers or weapons. Just ask if anyone can take our children, our families, save what they can." Kira's fingers flew over her controls. "Message ready, sir. Broadcasting now." The signal went out in all directions. It traveled at the speed of light toward distant stars. It carried the simple words of a dying people asking for help they did not expect to receive. Most of the galaxy ignored it. The signal was just noise among the millions of transmissions that filled space every day. Some governments received and filed it away as another minor crisis in a far corner of space. A few individuals heard it and felt sad for a moment before going back to their daily lives. But the signal kept traveling. It reached older civilizations who had seen too many species die to care anymore. It reached younger civilizations who did not yet have the ships to help. It reached trading posts and mining stations and deep space explorers who were too far away to do anything. And then, after traveling for almost 2 full days, the signal reached a small yellow star with 9 planets. The third planet was mostly water with some land masses covered in green and brown. It was not a particularly important world. Most of the galaxy barely knew it existed. The beings who lived there called their world Earth. They called themselves humans. The rest of the galaxy called them something else when they bothered to think about them at all. They called them Deathworlders. The distress signal from the Kelavari was received by a listening post on the dark side of Earth's moon. A young technician named Maria Santos was working the night shift when the translation computers finished processing the message. She read it twice to make sure she understood it correctly. Then she picked up her phone and called her supervisor. Then her supervisor called his supervisor. Then the calls went higher and higher until they reached the very top of Earth's military command. 3 hours after the signal was received, every human military base on Earth and in the colonies was buzzing with activity. Ships that had been in dry dock were being rushed back into service. Crews that had been on leave were called back to duty. Weapons that existed only in secret warehouses were being loaded onto transport ships. The humans had received the Kelavari distress call. They were preparing their response, but they were not preparing evacuation ships or refugee transports. They were preparing for war. Commander Veltar had not slept in 36 hours. His eyes burned and his hands shook from too much stimulant injections, but he stayed at his post. The hegemony fleet was only 2 hours away from Kelavar Prime now. Their sensors showed the enemy had grown even larger. Over 400 ships, each one bigger than anything the Kelavari had ever built. "Sir, we are getting responses to our distress signal," Kira said from her station. "Good responses?" Veltar asked, though he tried not to hope too much. "Some trading companies say they will pray for us. The Vegan Alliance sent us their official regrets. 3 mining corporations offered to buy our mineral rights after we are dead." Kira's voice was bitter. "Oh, and 17 different refugee transport companies want to know if we have payment ready for evacuation services." Veltar laughed, but there was no humor in it. Even facing extinction, the galaxy still wanted to make profit from their suffering. "Anything else?" "A few small ships from independent worlds say they will come help, but they are too far away. And sir," Kira paused, "we got one very strange message." "Strange how?" "It came from the human homeworld, Earth, but it was not what we expected." Veltar frowned. He knew about humans, of course. Everyone in the galaxy had heard the stories. They came from a world so dangerous that most species would die just from breathing the air. Gravity too strong, weather too violent, predators too deadly. Yet somehow the humans had not just survived but thrived. They had built cities and ships and had even started exploring other star systems. "What did they say?" Veltar asked. "They said message received, response en route. Estimated arrival 72 hours, and that was all, sir." "Response en route? What kind of response?" "They did not say, sir, but..." Kira looked confused. "Sir, I think they sent more than just a message." "What do you mean?" "I am picking up hyperspace signatures. A lot of them. Coming from the direction of Earth." Veltar felt his heart skip. "How many ships?" "I cannot tell yet, sir. The signatures are too far out. But it looks like a lot." On the main screen, the red dots of the hegemony fleet continued their steady approach. Veltar tried to imagine what a few human ships could do against such overwhelming numbers. Humans were tough, everyone knew that. But tough did not stop laser cannons or nuclear missiles. "Sir," the sensor officer suddenly shouted. "Contact. Multiple contacts coming out of hyperspace at grid 77 Alpha." On screen, the display shifted to show the edge of their star system. For a moment there was nothing but empty space and distant stars. Then the space began to ripple and twist as ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The first ship that appeared was huge, bigger than anything Veltar had ever seen. It was dark gray with angular lines and weapon ports that looked like hungry mouths. Before he could process what he was seeing, another ship appeared next to it, then another, then 10 more, then 50. How many? Veltar whispered. Still counting, sir. 200, 300. Sir, they just keep coming. The humans had not sent a few ships to help with evacuation. They had sent a fleet, a massive, terrible, beautiful fleet that filled the sensor screens with contact markers. Sir, incoming. Transmission from the lead human vessel. Put it through. The face that appeared on the screen was nothing like what Veltar had expected. The human was female, with short dark hair and calm brown eyes. She wore a blue uniform with insignia that probably meant she was in command. Her skin was darker than most humans Veltar had seen in database images, and there were small scars on her face that spoke of real combat experience. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth United Defense Fleet, the human said. Her voice was steady and professional. Commander Veltar, I presume? Yes, Admiral. We are grateful for your response, but I must tell you the situation has become impossible. The Hegemony fleet is less than 2 hours from our homeworld. We cannot ask you to sacrifice your people for our lost cause. Admiral Chen smiled, and Veltar was surprised to see it was not a sad smile or a sympathetic smile. It was the smile of someone who was looking forward to something. Commander, I think there has been a misunderstanding, she said. We did not come here to evacuate your people. We came here to solve your hegemony problem. Solve it? Admiral, they have over 400 warships. Even with your fleet, we are still outnumbered. Outnumbered, yes. Outgunned, no. The Admiral's smile grew wider. Commander, has anyone ever told you what humans consider good odds? No, Admiral. Any odds where we are still breathing. We received your distress call, and we have decided that what is happening here is unacceptable. The hegemony wants to commit genocide against your people. We have strong feelings about genocide. Veltar felt something he had not felt in months. It might have been hope, but it felt dangerous to believe in it. What are you saying, Admiral? I am saying that the hegemony picked the wrong species to exterminate while humans were watching. We have studied their attack patterns for the last 6 hours while we traveled here. We have analyzed their ship designs and their tactics. We have reached a conclusion. What conclusion? They are bullies, Commander. They are used to fighting people who follow rules and try to minimize casualties and seek diplomatic solutions. They have never fought anyone like us. Another voice spoke up from the background of the human transmission. Admiral, we have weapons lock on the hegemony fleet. All ships report ready for combat. Thank you, Commander Park. Maintain targeting, but do not fire until my order. Admiral Chen turned back to the screen. Commander Veltar, I suggest you pull your remaining ships back to a safe distance. What happens next is going to be educational, but not particularly safe for anyone nearby. Admiral, you cannot attack them directly. They will slaughter your fleet. Commander, you keep telling me what they will do to us, but you have not asked what we are going to do to them. The Admiral's expression became serious. The hegemony has made 3 critical errors. First, they assumed that because we are far from their territory, we would not care about their actions. Second, they assumed that because your people are peaceful, no one would come to defend you. Third, they assumed that rules of civilized warfare apply to humans. What do you mean? I mean that every human child learns a simple lesson. When someone hurts your friends, you hurt them back, harder. We are not here to have a polite military engagement, Commander. We are here to end the hegemony as a threat to anyone, anywhere, forever. The transmission paused as alarms began sounding on the Kelavari ships. The hegemony fleet had detected the human arrival and was changing course to intercept them. Admiral, Veltar said urgently, they are moving to attack you. They will not try to negotiate or demand surrender. They will simply start shooting. Good, Admiral Chen said. We would be disappointed if they wanted to talk. This will be much more straightforward. She turned to someone off screen. All ships, battle stations, weapons free when in range. Rules of engagement are simple. If it belongs to the hegemony and it can fight, destroy it. If it cannot fight, capture it. No prisoners who resist. No mercy for genocidal maniacs. The human fleet began to move. Their ships spread out in formations that looked both beautiful and terrifying. They did not move like any military Veltar had ever seen. They moved like predators who had been waiting their whole lives for exactly this kind of fight. Commander Veltar, Admiral Chen said, "You might want to record this. Your people should know that today was the day the galaxy learned what happens when someone threatens human friends." The transmission ended. On the sensor display, two fleets raced toward each other across the dark between worlds. The hegemony fleet was larger, but the human fleet moved with a confidence that made Veltar believe that maybe, just maybe, the monsters who had destroyed his people's peaceful life were about to meet something much worse than themselves. The first shots would be fired in less than an hour, and for the first time in months, Veltar was eager to see what would happen next. The first shots came exactly 53 minutes later. Commander Veltar watched from his command ship as the two fleets closed distance. The hegemony ships moved in their traditional formation, a solid wall of firepower designed to overwhelm and destroy everything in front of them. It had worked against every enemy they had faced. The human ships moved differently. They scattered like seeds in the wind, breaking into small groups that darted and weaved through space. To Veltar, it looked like chaos. To the hegemony commanders, it probably looked like panic. They were both wrong. "Sir, the hegemony fleet is opening fire," Kira reported. Red beams of energy reached across the darkness between the fleets. Nuclear missiles streaked like angry stars toward the human ships. The firepower was incredible, enough to crack planets and boil oceans. The human ships did something impossible. They dodged, not all of them, not perfectly. But they moved like they had been expecting this exact attack from this exact angle. Ships that should have been vaporized by direct hits somehow twisted away at the last second. Energy beams that should have cut through hulls instead grazed past harmlessly. "How are they doing that?" Veltar whispered. "Sir, I think they studied the hegemony weapon patterns during their approach," his tactical officer said. "Look at their movement. They are not just dodging randomly. They know exactly where each shot is going to go." Then the humans fired back. Human weapons were nothing like what the Kelavari had in their databases. There were no pretty energy beams or elegant missile trails. Human weapons looked angry. They looked like they had been designed by someone who wanted to make sure their enemies knew they were about to die. Streams of metal bullets the size of cars punched through hegemony shields like they were not even there. Missiles that split into dozens of smaller missiles at the last second, each one finding a different target. Energy weapons that did not just destroy their targets but made them explode in ways that damaged nearby ships. The first hegemony vessel died in less than 30 seconds. Then the second. Then 5 more almost at the same time. "Sir," Kira said, her voice full of shock, "the humans they are winning." But it was more than winning. The humans were hunting. Their small groups of ships worked together like pack predators. When a hegemony ship tried to retreat, 2 human ships would appear behind it. When the hegemony tried to concentrate their fire, the human ships would scatter and attack from 6 different directions. "Incoming transmission from Admiral Chen," Kira announced. "Put it through." The Admiral appeared on screen again. Behind her, Veltar could see the bridge of her ship. Humans moved quickly between control stations, calling out information and orders. There was no panic, no fear. If anything, they looked excited. "Commander Veltar, how are you enjoying the show?" Admiral Chen asked. "Admiral, this is incredible. Your tactics are unlike anything we have seen." "That is because most species fight wars like they are playing a game with rules," Chen replied. "Humans fight wars like we are trying to kill everything that threatens our friends." Very different approach. An explosion flashed across the view screen as another hegemony ship died. Then another. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "the hegemony is trying to reorganize. They are pulling back into a defensive formation." "Admiral," Chen smiled. "Commander Park, are you hearing this?" A voice responded from off-screen. "Yes, Admiral. They want to play defense now. Should we show them why that will not work? Please do. What happened next made Veltar understand why the galaxy whispered about Deathworlders. The human fleet suddenly changed tactics completely. Instead of darting around the edges of the hegemony formation, they charged straight at it, not in a careful, organized advance. They charged like wild animals attacking prey. Ships accelerated far beyond what should have been safe limits. Some human vessels rammed directly into hegemony ships, somehow surviving impacts that should have destroyed both vessels. They are boarding, Kira said in amazement. Sir, human ships are attaching to hegemony vessels and sending troops inside. That is suicide. Hand-to-hand combat in a spaceship? Not for humans, apparently. On the tactical display, Veltar watched as human boarding parties fought their way through hegemony ships. The fighting was brutal and quick. Within minutes, hegemony vessels were going dark as human troops took control of their bridges and engine rooms. Admiral, Veltar called out. Your people are fighting inside enemy ships. What if the hegemony decides to destroy their own vessels to kill your troops? They tried that twice, Admiral Chen replied calmly. It did not work out. Well for them. Turns out human soldiers are very good at preventing self-destruct sequences when they put their minds to it. Another group of hegemony ships tried to break away from the battle and flee toward the edge of the system. Human ships intercepted them before they could reach hyperspace. The running battle that followed was short and decisive. Sir, I am reading. Massive damage to the hegemony fleet, the sensor officer reported. They have lost over 60% of their ships. The remainder are scattered and trying to retreat. Let them go? Veltar asked. No, Admiral Chen said firmly. This ends. Today, all of it. Commander Park, initiate pursuit protocols. I want every hegemony ship in this system either captured or destroyed. No exceptions. Admiral, surely some mercy, Veltar began. Commander, Chen interrupted, her voice becoming hard as steel. The hegemony came here to commit genocide. They have done this to other peaceful species across the galaxy. How much mercy do you think they would have shown your children? Veltar had no answer for that. The hunt continued for another 3 hours. Human ships tracked down fleeing hegemony vessels with methodical precision. Some hegemony ships tried to surrender, but only after they had exhausted their ammunition and lost their ability to fight. Admiral Chen accepted their surrender, but made it clear they would face trial for war crimes. When it was over, the hegemony fleet that had terrorized the Kelavari for months no longer existed. 400 ships had been reduced to debris and captured hulks. Not a single human vessel had been destroyed, though many showed battle damage. Commander Veltar, Admiral Chen called. You can bring your ships back to normal positions. The immediate threat is over. Admiral, I do not know how to thank you. What you have done here, it will be remembered forever. Thank us by helping us with the next part of our mission. Next part? This was just the fleet that was attacking your people. According to our intelligence, the hegemony has dozens of other fleets conducting similar operations across the galaxy. We intend to stop all of them. Veltar stared at the human admiral. You mean to fight the entire hegemony empire? That could take years. It could cost thousands of ships and millions of lives. Yes, it could, but someone has to do it, and apparently we are the only ones willing to try. Chen's expression became thoughtful. Commander, your people know this region of space better than we do. You know which systems the hegemony has attacked and which ones they plan to hit next. Will you help us? You want us to fight beside you? I want you to help us save everyone the hegemony plans to kill. Your choice how involved you want to be. Veltar looked around his bridge. His officers stared back at him with expressions he had not seen in months. Hope, determination, the look of people who had remembered what it felt like to fight back. Admiral, Veltar said, the Kelavari Confederation would be honored to stand with humanity against the hegemony. Excellent. Then let us get to work. We have a galaxy to save. On the main screen, human ships moved through the debris field, rescuing survivors and securing prisoners. In the distance, the lights of Kelavar Prime shone peacefully, no longer under threat of destruction. The hegemony had learned their first lesson about fighting Deathworlders. It would not be their last. 2 weeks after the battle for Kelavar Prime, Admiral Chen stood in her communications center watching as technicians made final adjustments to the most powerful transmitter array humans had ever built. They had spent the last 14 days preparing for this moment. Every human ship in the fleet had contributed equipment and personnel to create a broadcasting system capable of reaching every corner of the galaxy. Commander Veltar stood beside her, still amazed by what he was seeing. In 2 weeks, the humans had not only repaired all their battle damage, but had somehow made their ships stronger than before. They had also established a joint command center with the Kelavari, begun training programs for mixed human Kelavari crews, and started planning operations against hegemony forces in 17 different star systems. "Admiral, are you certain this is wise?" Veltar asked quietly. "Broadcasting this message will let every government in the galaxy know what happened here. Some of them may not appreciate human interference in galactic affairs." Admiral Chen smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. "Commander, in the last 2 weeks we have intercepted 47 distress calls from other systems under hegemony attack. 47 different species crying for help while the galactic community does nothing. I think it is time the galaxy understood that someone is finally willing to do something about bullies. But this message, it is essentially a declaration of war against any aggressive empire in the galaxy. Not just a declaration of war, Commander. It is an invitation for them to reconsider their life choices before we arrive to help them reconsider." The chief communications officer looked up from her console. "Admiral, all systems are ready. We can broadcast on every frequency used by every known species. The message will reach monitoring stations, military bases, civilian networks, and deep space facilities across the galaxy. Translation status? Complete, Admiral. The message has been translated into 437 languages, including all major diplomatic and trade languages. Every spacefaring civilization will be able to understand it perfectly." Admiral Chen nodded. She had spent considerable time crafting this message. It needed to be clear, direct, and impossible to misunderstand. More importantly, it needed to make absolutely certain that every aggressive empire in the galaxy understood exactly what they were now facing. "Begin transmission," she ordered. Across the galaxy, communication officers on thousands of worlds suddenly found their equipment receiving an impossibly strong signal. The transmission was so powerful that it overrode normal traffic and forced its way onto every active frequency. On military bases, the message interrupted strategic planning sessions. On trading stations, it cut through commercial broadcasts. On government facilities, it demanded immediate attention from anyone with the authority to make decisions. The message began with a simple identification. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Fleet, broadcasting from the Kelavari system." In the command center, Admiral Chen watched as the transmission went out to the stars. She knew that within hours, every major government in the galaxy would be analyzing every word of what she was about to say. 2 weeks ago, we received a distress call from the Kelavari Confederation. They were facing extinction at the hands of the Hegemony Empire, an aggressive military force that specializes in the conquest and genocide of peaceful civilizations. The Kelavari asked for help evacuating their population before their homeworld was destroyed. The Admiral paused, letting those words sink in across the galaxy. "We did not come to evacuate them. We came to solve their problem. The hegemony fleet that threatened the Kelavari no longer exists. It has been destroyed or captured, and the survivors are currently awaiting trial for war crimes." On a dozen different worlds, military commanders stopped what they were doing to listen more carefully. But this message is not about what we have done. It is about what we are going to do next. In the last 2 weeks, we have confirmed that the hegemony is currently conducting similar operations against 17 other peaceful civilizations. They have plans to attack 32 more systems over the next 6 months. This is unacceptable. The transmission continued, and Admiral Chen's voice grew harder. "To any government currently engaged in unprovoked aggression against peaceful worlds, your actions have come to our attention. Humanity does not negotiate with those who commit genocide. We do not offer terms to empires built on conquest and slavery. We do not walk away from fights until those fights are finished. Veltar watched as the Admiral delivered the next part of her message. This was the section that would change everything. Effective immediately, any military force attacking civilian populations or conducting operations aimed at species extinction will be considered hostile to human interests. We will respond to such actions with overwhelming force and complete destruction of the attacking forces. She gestured to someone off-screen, and tactical displays appeared showing star charts with marked locations. To assist in this policy, we are providing the current locations and operational status of every hegemony fleet currently engaged in active military operations. These coordinates are accurate as of this transmission and are updated in real time. Any government or organization wishing to verify this information is welcome to send observers. The displays showed dozens of red markers scattered across the galaxy. Each marker represented a hegemony fleet attacking innocent worlds. To the hegemony leadership, you have 48 hours to recall all military forces to your home territory and begin negotiations for the peaceful resolution of conflicts with all species you are currently attacking. Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your military capabilities. Admiral Chen looked directly into the camera, and her next words were spoken with absolute certainty. To any other empire considering similar actions, please check your star charts. If you are within 50 light-years of any human-inhabited system, we would like to schedule a diplomatic meeting to discuss your future policies regarding civilian populations. If you are more than 50 light-years away, consider this your formal notice period. She paused again, letting the implications become clear. Some of you may be wondering about human military capabilities. Some of you may believe that a young species like humanity cannot challenge established galactic powers. For those governments, we offer the following information. New displays appeared showing footage from the battle at Kelevar Prime. The destruction of the hegemony fleet played out in clear detail. This is what happened to a fleet of 400 hegemony warships when they threatened our friends. The engagement lasted 6 hours. Human casualties were 0. Hegemony casualties were 100%. Draw your own conclusions. The footage showed human ships moving through the debris field, the precision of their tactics, the complete devastation they had inflicted. To the peaceful civilizations of the galaxy, humanity stands ready to assist any world facing unprovoked aggression. We do not ask for payment or territorial concessions. We ask only that you allow us to help you. Remain free. Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly for the final part of her message. To those who would prey on the innocent, the galaxy has changed. There is now a consequence for choosing conquest over cooperation. There is now a price for deciding. That might makes right. That consequence is simple and absolute. She looked directly into the camera one final time. If you hurt people who cannot defend themselves, we will hurt you back. Harder, longer, until you stop forever or until you no longer exist to threaten anyone. This is not a negotiation. This is not a diplomatic position. This is a promise. The transmission ended with a display showing the current position of the human fleet and a simple text message. For immediate assistance with aggressive military forces, contact the human defense fleet at these coordinates. Response time typically under 72 hours. In the communications center, Admiral Chen turned to Commander Veltar. Message sent, Commander. I estimate we will start receiving responses within the hour. What kind of responses do you expect, Admiral? Threats, demands, diplomatic protests, and probably several declarations of war, Chen replied calmly. Also, I expect distress calls from at least 12 different worlds asking for immediate assistance. And you're prepared for that? Admiral Chen smiled, and this time it was a warm, genuine smile. Commander, do you know what humans call a target-rich environment? No, Admiral. A good day at work. 6 months had passed since Admiral Chen's message went out to the galaxy. Commander Veltar stood in the observation deck of the new joint Kelevari human space station, orbiting Kelevar Prime, watching ships come and go through what had become one of the busiest systems in the galaxy. The changes had been remarkable and swift. Within hours of the broadcast, 3 different aggressive empires had voluntarily ceased their military campaigns and requested diplomatic negotiations. Within days, The Hegemony Empire had recalled all their fleets and offered complete surrender, rather than face the promised destruction. Within weeks, dozens of previously conquered worlds had declared independence, knowing that humanity would protect them from retaliation. "Commander, we have another request for assistance," Lieutenant Kira announced. She wore a new uniform now, one that combined Kelavari and human design elements. The Joint Defense Force had grown to include over 30 different species, all united under the simple principle that aggressive conquest was no longer acceptable. "What is the situation?" Veltar asked. "The Corvin Republic reports that the Iron Hand Syndicate is raiding their outer colonies. 3 attacks in the last week, standard pattern for slavery operations." Veltar nodded. The Iron Hand Syndicate was one of the few remaining criminal organizations that still thought they could operate like the old days. They had not yet learned the new reality of the galaxy. Response time: Admiral Martinez can have the 3rd Fleet there in 18 hours. Send them. Full response protocol. As Kira sent the orders, Veltar reflected on how much had changed. The human fleet that had saved his people was now just one part of a massive alliance. Humans had kept their promise to help anyone facing unprovoked aggression, but they had also done something unexpected. They had taught other species how to fight back. Not just fight, but fight like humans. Kelavari ships now carried human weapons and used human tactics. Their crews trained alongside human soldiers and learned what it meant to treat war as something personal, rather than political. Most importantly, they had learned that sometimes the only way to stop evil was to be more dangerous than the evil itself. "Commander," Kira said, "we also have a diplomatic request. The Alteran Republic wants to meet with you about joining the Alliance." Veltar smiled. The Alteran Republic had been one of the governments that refused to help when the Kelavari were facing extinction. Now they wanted protection from the same alliance they had once ignored. "Schedule the meeting for next week. Make sure Admiral Chen is available to attend." Through the observation deck's windows, Veltar could see the construction yards where new ships were being built. These were not the elegant, peaceful vessels that the Kelavari had once preferred. These were warships designed with one purpose: to ensure that no peaceful civilization would ever again face extinction, while the galaxy watched and did nothing. A familiar voice spoke behind him. "Admiring our handiwork, Commander?" Veltar turned to see Admiral Chen approaching. She looked tired but satisfied. The last 6 months had been busy for everyone, but especially for the humans who had suddenly found themselves responsible for policing half the galaxy. "Admiral, I was just thinking about how much has changed since that first distress call. For the better, I hope." "Definitely for the better, though I suspect some governments would disagree." Admiral Chen laughed. 3 empires have collapsed, 2 criminal syndicates have been completely destroyed, and every aggressive military force in the galaxy now checks their star charts before making plans. I would say we have been successful. What about the opposition? The hegemony remnants are still trying to organize resistance. Let them try. They are down to hiding in asteroid fields and sending angry messages. Not much of a threat anymore. Chen's expression became more serious. "The real challenge now is making sure this lasts. Making sure that 50 years from now, some new empire does not rise up and start the cycle again. How do we do that? Education, integration. Show every species in the galaxy that cooperation is more profitable than conquest. Show them that peaceful civilizations can defend themselves when they work together." Admiral Chen gestured toward the construction yards. "Every ship built here has crews from at least 5 different species. Every defense station is staffed by mixed teams. Every response fleet includes vessels from multiple worlds. You are building something permanent. We are building something that will outlast us. Something that will make sure no one ever again has to send a desperate distress call into empty space hoping someone will care enough to help." An alarm chimed softly, and Kira's voice came over the communication system. "Commander, Admiral, we have an urgent message from the Terran Council." "Put it through," Admiral Chen said. A holographic display appeared showing a human official that Veltar recognized as one of Earth's senior diplomats. "Admiral Chen, Commander Veltar, I have news from the Galactic Council. They have officially voted to recognize the Defense Alliance as a legitimate interstellar organization. More importantly, they have adopted Resolution 2847, which declares unprovoked military aggression against civilian populations to be a crime against galactic civilization. Admiral Chen raised an eyebrow. They actually voted for that? Unanimously. Apparently, the recent disappearance of several aggressive empires convinced them that supporting peace was in their best interests. Veltar could not help but smile. The same Galactic Council that had refused to help the Kelavari was now officially supporting the alliance that had saved them. There is more, the diplomat continued. The Council has also established the Emergency Response Protocol. Any civilization facing extinction-level threats can now trigger an automatic response from all alliance members. No more waiting for diplomatic approvals or committee meetings. How fast is the response time? Admiral Chen asked. Maximum 72 hours from distress call to arrival of assistance, usually much faster. After the transmission ended, Admiral Chen and Veltar stood quietly for a moment, watching the ships in the distance. Admiral, Veltar said, do you think it is really over? The age of conquest and genocide? Not over, Commander, but changed. Now when someone decides to hurt innocent people, they know what will happen. They know that somewhere in the galaxy, someone will hear the call for help. Someone will come. Someone will stop them. And if new threats arise, new empires with new weapons. Admiral Chen's smile was the same one she had worn before the battle for Kelavar Prime. Then we will learn new ways to stop them. That is what humans do, Commander. We adapt, we overcome, we protect the people we care about. A new ship was approaching the station, its hull scarred from recent combat. Veltar could see the mixed crew through the bridge windows. Humans, Kelavari, and 3 other species he did not immediately recognize. Who are they, he asked. Refugees from the Outer Rim. Their homeworld was attacked by raiders last week. We stopped the raiders, but their planet needs rebuilding. They have asked to join the Alliance. And? We said yes, of course. There is always room for people who want to build something better than what came before. As the refugee ship docked with the station, Veltar realized that this was what victory looked like. Not just the defeat of enemies, but the creation of something new, something better. Something that would ensure that the galaxy never again ignored the cries of those who needed help. 6 months ago, the Kelavari had sent a desperate message into the darkness, hoping someone would care enough to save their children. The humans had heard that message and had come not with evacuation ships but with something much more valuable. They had come with the promise that no one would ever have to face extinction alone again. The galaxy had learned a new lesson, and it was a lesson that would be remembered for generations to come. When Deathworlders decide to protect their friends, the universe itself becomes a safer place for everyone.